Shalom. I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of our synagogue. At this time, I'd like to speak to you on the subject of core identity. Core identity. Who are we? This is a big question, and I will be devoting both this message and next week's to exploring answers to it. The first part of an answer to that fundamental question is to acknowledge that our identity is multifaceted. Each of us is like a gem, glinting now one way, now another, depending on the angle of illumination. In part, we define ourselves as a family member, grandparent, parent, uncle or aunt, spouse, sibling, child, nephew or niece, grandchild. Each of these different roles, many of which we play in the course of a life, illuminates a different facet of our identity. Beyond family, there are other facets. Community member, neighbor, fellow resident, fellow congregant, fellow worker. All of these take turns in helping to define us. Beyond local community, there are wider and even global connections. The ancient Roman could claim his citizenship rights as a privilege wherever in the empire he traveled. Civis Romanus sum, I am a Roman citizen. There are also emotional and spiritual affiliations. President John F. Kennedy, proclaiming solidarity with the beleaguered citizens of West Berlin at the height of the Cold War, won over his audience with his declaration. 2,000 years ago, the proudest boast was Civis Romanus sum. Today, in the world of freedom, the proudest boast is Ich bin ein Berliner. Incidentally, Kennedy's Berlin audience was so taken by his support that it forgave him the linguistic faux pas he had just committed. Ein Berliner means a jelly donut, just as we say a Napoleon to refer to a kind of pastry. Ich bin Berliner would have been I am a Berliner. But the crowd knew what he was trying to say and they loved it. For us as Jewish people, these several nodes of identity vibrate sympathetically, producing what Abraham Lincoln called the mystic chords of memory. We are family. We are also a faith community. For those of us living in free societies, we are also engaged citizens of our country of domicile, either our homeland, the state of Israel, or the country of our residence, such as the United States, France, Great Britain, and so on. All of those notes resonate together. Sometimes the harmony is pure. Sometimes, as right now, with anti-Semitism on the rise in our United States, the harmony is disturbed by dissonance. We need to work to restore the harmony. To hear the harmony of these, quote, mystic chords of memory, close quote, we Jews rehearse our history. Declaring our sacred history is an act of personal identification. It is our religion's parallel to the church practice of reciting a creed stating what all the believers affirm. The reason why reciting our history functions this way is that our history shapes us. It is part of who we are. We are the children of Israel. We are the house of Jacob. Israel, also known as Jacob, was our ancestor. He is the ancestor by adoption of all those who have chosen to join our people, and he is the DNA ancestor of those of us born of Jewish parents, grandparents, and ancestors throughout the centuries. In the Bible, the Jewish farmer recited his national history when he paid his taxes, when he presented his first fruits to the priest. Ever since rabbinic times, we have incorporated that declaration into our statement of personal identification with the Jewish people, repeated at the Passover Seder. Arami Oved Avi, a wandering Aramean, was my forefather, Jacob. He descended to Egypt, few in number, and grew there into a large and mighty nation. The Egyptians oppressed us. God rescued us and brought us to this place and gave us this land. Now look, I have brought the first yield of the fruit of the soil you gave me, O Lord. Deuteronomy chapter 26, abridged, verses 5 through 10. This leads us to the important recognition that as a component of our identity, our history is not just genealogy. It is a commitment to beliefs and values that have resonated within us. Beliefs and values that were part of our upbringing or else our conscious choice for those of us who cast our lot with the Jewish people. These beliefs and values most typically go back to childhood, although we remain plastic and able to grow throughout life. The poet Wordsworth famously stated, "The child is father of the man." My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So was it when my life began. So is it now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old, or let me die. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. Wordsworth meant that just as he had a spontaneous feeling of awe and excitement when as a child he beheld a rainbow, so too did he have it as a mature man, and that his pious wish is to continue to have it into his old age. That sentiment echoes the Jewish benediction upon seeing a rainbow. Baruch atah, zocher haberit v'ne'eman bivrito v'kayam b'ma'amaro. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who remembers the covenant and is faithful to his covenant and keeps his promise. Although a maverick as a poet, Wordsworth was religiously traditional. He was a loyal member of the Church of England. Like the Hebrew benediction, his poem has a nod to the biblical story of Noah. The first word in the final line, bound each to each by natural piety. Bound is an allusion to the covenant that, according to the Bible, God grants to the children of Noah after the deluge. The Hebrew benediction makes this historical recollection more definite. The covenant that God recalls, symbolized by the rainbow, is the covenant not again to destroy all of life. Synthesizing these wide-ranging thoughts from psychology, poetry, and our own religious tradition, our identity proceeds from our upbringing, from our childhood. It continues to absorb elements from the life choices that we make. It is malleable, and yet it does have a core. As Jews, our identity makes us a link in the ongoing chain of generations, with each link having its own coloration, but still bound to the links that preceded us. Indeed, among our fondest wishes is to pass these values along to children and to children's children, so that the chain will be unbroken. May our identity keep us grounded in confusing times, and may we bring out the finest within the many permutations of what our identity may hold. Amen.